Hey there, I'm Chris from Platform.sh, and I'm going to show you a little bit about local development with Docksal and Platform.sh, and a couple of Platform.sh interesting features along the way as well. So where I'm going to start is the Platform.sh web console. So on the home page, when I get there, I'm going to see all the projects that I have access to in Platform.sh. I've got a variety of things here. Some are Drupal, some are some Python chatbots, some are Platform.sh website, which is a Hugo static site generator, WordPress, Mautic, which is a PHP CRM, etc. So lots of different things. I'm going to focus in on this Docksal test, which is just a plain vanilla Drupal site. So I've installed it with the Umami demo theme, so it's pretty much out of the box. And when I get to this project page, I see a couple of different areas that we're going to look at. One is the services grid, so this basically tells me how my application is set up, so it's pretty straightforward. It's just our Platform.sh router, which does the caching and routing to the different application components I might have. A PHP app, so in this case it's serving Drupal for us, and a MySQL database. This is actually MariaDB 10.2. Down below, I'm going to see all of the activity that might have happened. This is all me playing in a project, but this would show all of the different activities, commits, merges, branches that my team might have done within this project. And this is the area we're going to spend most of the time in. This is the environment setup. So Platform.sh is based around the concept of Git. So it uses declarative infrastructure. What that means is I basically describe in a text file what I need to support my application, what database, what search, what queue, those types of things. What versions of the application do I need? A Node.js and a Python and a PHP container for Drupal. I describe all that in a file. Platform.sh takes care of generating containers for each one of those components. And it does that for every single branch that I create in Git. So this represents basically my Git repository. And each one of these is not only a code branch, but it's also a complete self-contained environment. And what that means is it runs all of these things. So each one will have a separate set of containers with a MySQL database, PHP, application runtime, router, config, etc. So I can change all of those things as I want. I can also make this fit whatever workflow that I want to use. So some teams just kind of work off the master branch as production, and I might have, different branches for each thing I'm working on, a bug fix, a new feature, or whatever. Others have more kind of nested and complex workflows, and Platform.sh lets you do either or both. So in this case, I've got sprint 1 and then feature 1. Maybe I'd have feature 2, 3, 4. Maybe I'd organize these by teams. For each one of those, we automatically generate a set of URLs. We automatically give you SSL certificates for each one of those environments too. I'm going to focus in on keeping this as simple as possible, though. So I want to show Docksal, which is a container-driven local development environment, and how it interacts with Platform.sh. So I'm going to focus in on the dev branch. But what I want to do is make sure that we're working on the latest version of the website in that dev branch. So what I'm going to do here is make a couple of changes. So I'm going to go into our master environment. So this is production. Normally, you'd have mysite.com, etc. I'm already logged in as an administrator, so I can go in and make a simple change. So I'll use the Drupal quick edit functionality, and let's change it from super easy to super duper easy. Can't get easier than that. Save. So this is going to update the Drupal database. So Drupal stores all of this stuff in the MySQL database usually. And if I go back to my dev environment, so I get the same set of information specific to my dev environment. I can open that one up, and I see that it just still says super easy vegetarian pasta bake. I want to actually pull back the latest changes. So what I'm going to do is click this sync button. So I'm in my dev environment. I click sync. And what I want to do is I'm going to replace all the data. Databases, uploaded files of dev with that from master. And you can also do this from the command line. So I'm going to work a little bit in the command line, a little bit here in the web console. In this case, I'm just going to click sync. And what it's going to do is show me my progress. So it's basically going to copy all of that data back from master, so the production environment, back into staging. So I can be working on an exact byte for byte copy of that code. The same thing happens, and excuse me, the code and the data and the databases. The same exact thing happens whenever I create a new Git branch, and that'll all happen in the background. So all I would have to do is do git checkout blah, and that would trigger Platform.sh to create a new branch. If you're using an external development workflow tool like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, and you're using a merge request or a pull request workflow, you can even connect to those and have GitHub or those other tools basically create environments and delete environments on the fly as they're needed. So now we've synced that data back to master, excuse me, from master to dev. So if I go back into my dev environment here and do a forced refresh, I should, assuming I'm not getting something weird and cached, get super duper easy vegetarian pasta bake. So now I've got exactly the same code and data in 2 cloud environments. That's easy enough. But what we really want to do is make some changes locally and then push them back. So for that, I want to sync back to my local environment in Docksal. And Docksal is actually really easy to set up with Platform.sh. It's actually come up with really out-of-the-box sort of configurations that make it super easy to sync up all of your stuff, your data, your files, your code, with your Platform.sh cloud dev environments. Right now, I've done a couple of things in the interest of time. I've added a settings local PHP file, which is what Drupal uses to have a different set of database configurations. So tell Drupal how to connect to the database locally versus how Platform.sh or other cloud platforms do. I've also run an initial checkout, so I've got the code on my laptop here. I'm not running Docksal yet, but I can show you what the config file looks like. It's super straightforward. If I do I'm going to use vim, go into the Docksal env file. Basically, this says use this version of PHP, so this matches what we're using on this particular site for Platform.sh, and use this version of MariaDB. Right now I'm connected to the master environment, and this is my site, so this matches what you see here. So this is my site ID. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just start Docksal. So this is going to spin up the containers. Because I've done this before, it's already downloaded all of the dependencies, etc., that I needed to run. So it's downloaded and it configured MariaDB. It's downloaded and configured PHP, and basically now it's going to set up a local version of that, a number of containers running in Docker, and then it's going to generate a project URL for me. So this Docksal-Drupal. So if I copy that and go over and create a new tab, now remember, this is from the old master. I haven't synced this up. I'm going to show you how to sync up to the cloud in just a moment. So this should still be my old master branch before I change that copy on the front page. Okay, so we got a local copy, so this is running on our site. Now what we want to do is actually pull down the dev environment, and we want to sync all that stuff up. And that's really easy. So all we need to do is run a couple of commands. So I could just run a git command, git checkout the dev, or I could run the Platform.sh command line tool, which is kind of a wrapper for a number of different things. So I could do platform checkout, and it has a nice autocomplete functionality, and I'm going to check out the dev environment. So now I've got my dev code, as you see in my little get thing here. I also have to make one other change. I need to change my Docksal configuration so it is connected. It knows which commands to run, which databases to pull, etc. So I'm going to do a fin. Fin is the Docksal command line. Config set hosting and equals dev. And basically what that does is update that variable here, right? So now that I've connected to my dev environment, all I need to do is run another command, fin pull, And we could do this we could just do a fin pull for everything. So that will do code, data, and files. We could do just databases. We could just do file systems, but I'm going to do everything. And I'm going to add a couple other commands here just for the sake of speed. So I'm going to force it to download the fresh database, and I'm going to say yes to everything that it asks for, so it doesn't prompt me in the middle of the commands here. So what it's going to do is connect to the Platform.sh dev environment that we've created and synced up. It's going to pull the database, it's going to pull the code, it's going to synchronize everything, so I've got a perfect clone from a configuration standpoint here as well. Now there's one more thing that I'm going to do once this database downloads and it's synced up with my Docksal environment here locally, is I'm going to run the build process. So what Platform.sh is not just a hosting environment, but it's really a continuous deployment and continuous integration environment for a variety of different platforms as well. And what that means is I can create scripts essentially for building and deploying and post-deploy and a number of other things. So, and because we're actually running a site that is based on Drupal 8 and managed with Composer, there are a few other steps that you have to have a kind of a working version of Drupal. One of those things is running Composer install. Platform.sh basically takes care of all of that stuff at runtime. You don't have to check all of your Drupal dependencies in. You just commit a Composer file, and then we take care of that build. But to do that locally, we have a command to do it. Platform build will do all those dependency runs. So anything that was going to run in the platform build step on Platform.sh can run here locally as well. So now we've built that complete application. Didn't really have much to do because we've already synced this up before. I've done a dry run, obviously. Okay, so great. What we should have now, though, is an exact clone. So if I am correct, we should now see a little content change because we pulled that change from master into dev, and we pulled the dev environment down into our local, which is the case. So now we have a super duper easy vegetarian pasta bake. So 1-for-1 copy. Now we can actually get to work. All that talking probably would have been compressed into 5 seconds. Run a couple of commands, you're ready to go. You could wrap these things up in a script as well to sync up with different environments easy enough. I just haven't done that here. Let's do something that's really common. So I want to update the code, basically. I want to add functionality to my Drupal site. I'm going to add a module, and I'm going to do something that's really simple. Because we're doing this in a Drupal website that's managed with Composer, I'm going to run a Composer command to add a new module. Otherwise, you might actually download the application code. You might make a change to a custom module locally, different things like that. In this case, I'm going to run Composer require, and I'm going to require Drupal/Google Analytics. So what that's going to do is basically go out to Drupal.org, download the Google Analytics code. I could specify a specific version if I needed that. And it's going to update my composer.json and composer.lock files. And all I'll have to do to deploy this out to the cloud is add those to my Git repository, and Platform.sh will take care of the rest. All right, so we've downloaded Drupal, Google Analytics 3.0 from Drupal. Now, if I want to log into this, I can't remember what the password is, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. Docksal has a nice wrapper around Drush, the Drupal shell. So I can just do a fin drush ULI, which generates a one-time login as my admin, or my user 0. So obviously something you probably wouldn't want to do in production, but just doing a little quick demo here. So I will copy that little guy onto the end here, and that should log me in, just to prove that I actually did install Google Analytics in my local environment. So now I am logged in. I can go to configuration. Oh, I forgot how Drupal works very briefly. I need to go to extend. I need to turn it on. I'm a little bit rusty. Google Google Analytics, install. Obviously, I could have done this from the drush command line directly. Then I wouldn't get to see all of the little spinning bars that Drupal gives us. Finally, okay, great. Now I can go to configuration. And Google Analytics is installed. And from there I could add my property ID and do whatever I need there. The other things that I could do, I could, as I said before, I could update my configuration. So if you're using Drupal 8's configuration management tools, you can actually export this Google Analytics property ID. You can also manage things like this through environment variables in Platform.sh as well. So you can set custom environment variables that either are inherited or not from the master environment. So for instance, for Google Analytics or other kind of APIs, you might have a set of API keys or IDs that are used for your production site, but you'd want either a different set or none of those used for your other environments, your dev environment, your staging, test, whatever you've set up. So you can actually set up the different inheritance of environment variables in Platform.sh as well. Let's now, okay, we've got Google Analytics running locally. You see my get line here has changed from green to yellow. That means I've got changes. So if I look at it, do a get status. Obviously, I'm using the command line. You could use an IDE of your choice. Basically, I've got two files that have been modified. So all I'm going to do is check in those changes on Composer. So my Composer.json and Composer lock file. I don't have to actually upload the Google Analytics code directly to Platform.sh. Platform.sh will go ahead and take care of downloading all those dependencies from Drupal.org. If you have Node dependencies, it can go download them from npm, pip from pip for Python, etc. You can do a lot within that build process. But what I'm going to do is do a git add. So I need to add those Composer files, the JSON and lock file, right? And then I'm going to do a git commit. Added Google Analytics. And then I'm ready to push. So if I could do a git push, or I could do a platform push, which is just a wrapper. And this is going to take my code from any changes that I've made here in dev and push them up to Platform.sh. So if I go back to the Platform.sh page, I see some messages flying by as Platform.sh runs that build script here. And I'm also going to see that same log file basically here in the web console. And I'm going to see the status. I'm going to see the commits that I made. So I added Google Analytics. I'll see the status of this particular environment right now. It's building. I can see the status of all my environments at once here. There we go. So we've redeployed the environment. We've added new routes, etc. And if we visit our dev site, well, we'll have to log in. Luckily, Platform.sh has a wrapper around Drush as well. So we can do a platform drush. Whoops, not fresh, drush. ULI. So this is going to run the equivalent of our local drush. This is going to run it on the dev environment in Platform. Platform.sh, so I can copy and paste that guy here. So I get my one-time login to my dev environment. And if I go to extend, now I've got Google Analytics installed in my dev environment as well. And that's it. So anything that you do locally in code, you can push back up. Drupal's, obviously, has configuration stored in a couple of different places. There's a number of different ways that teams manage that configuration. You can do it through Drupal 8's configuration management utilities. If you have something that's more of a really kind of a static site, you could actually push all of the the code, the data, everything from your dev environments back up into master, but that's kind of outside the scope of what I wanted to show today. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how you can organize your workflow in Platform.sh, in our tooling, so create multiple branches to suit whatever workflow your team has, have those things automatically managed within Platform.sh, automatically containerized, synchronize data and code between those environments, and then synchronize all of that stuff down to your local environment so different developers can work on different features or projects or bug fixes in their own local environment that mimics Platform.sh very closely. And that's it.